Today on the Face Off Hockey Podcast, Canadians in the middle of the longest road trip of the season, 2-1, not going so bad, but not going so great either after yesterday's performance. And the Rangers back on a new winning streak after the 4-game losing streak. So all that and more coming up today on the Face Off Hockey Podcast. Hey Scott, how's it going today?
Good. Very, very good. It's a very good morning. Or it was a good morning. Now it's a good evening, I guess.
For sure, yeah.
So-
It's been a nice day back here in Montreal. Getting a little bit cold, your kind of weather, but I'm still
Yeah.
longing for summer.
We're not here. We're not there yet. I've got a couple of 70-degree days coming up.
Yeah, it's gonna be something like that for us for the weekend too, but I'm happy with that.
My buddy in Calgary just got back from Vienna. He sent me a picture. But apparently they got about 6 inches of snow already. I'm so jealous.
Nice. All right, so it's been a couple of big weeks. We were off last week, and so we got a lot of stuff to cover. So let's get it going. Let's start on the Rangers side with you.
Yeah, had we done the show last week, I'd be in a completely different mood. The Rangers started off the season at 3-1, came home for a 4-game homestand and lost 3 of them. 2 of them to terrible teams, and not only that, but it's the way they played. They beat Anaheim, which made it 3-1, and then they laid an absolute egg against San Jose, an 0-5 at the time San Jose team, in which they gave they did get a point out of it, went to a shootout, but no excuse for that. They gave San Jose the first win of the year, and then they followed it. And you're allowed to have a stinker every now and then, but if you're going to be a Stanley Cup contender, you cannot have 2 stinkers in a row, and that's exactly what they did. And at the time, 2-7. Oh, I had notes. What I did with them. I had the records. Anyway, I believe they were 2-4 at the time. Columbus team came in, and I was at that game. That was my first game of the year, and just blew the Rangers out of the water, 5-1. Disgusting game. So that was loss number 2 in a row. And then they did follow it up with 2 more losses. However, Colorado came to town, and the Rangers played very, very well in that one. And that went to OT. Colorado beat them in OT. But the Rangers, I think, were the better team. And against a team like Colorado, that's a good sign. Now, you don't want to leave points on the table, especially in a 4-game homestand, but baby steps. They had to right the ship. It looked like they were starting to do that. And then the next game after that, they followed it up with a 3-0 loss to the Islanders, which never want to lose to the Islanders, of course. But in that one, I can't really complain about the Rangers, the way the Rangers played in that one either. I think they were the better team. Ilya Sorokin is certainly evolving as one of the league's top goalies, and he absolutely stole that show. So again, the Rangers looked good, but had 1 point in those 2 games. They looked very good, I thought, but only had 1 point to show for it. But they built on that, went on the road, took down a very good first place Dallas team on the road, 6-3. Was nice. It was 3-3 going into the third. Rangers scored 3 goals in about 4 minutes span, that one away. And they followed it up in Arizona. Got to see on TV that whatever the hell they call that arena they're playing in.
The Mullet Arena.
Yeah, that name just fits the situation there. 4,800 people, I think. I don't get it. I really don't. But in any case, the important thing is the Rangers got a win there too. I think it was 3-2 was the final, and I'm fine with that. It was the second game of a back-to-back when on the road. When that happens, it doesn't matter who you're playing. It's like you come out with a win. It was good to see. So that was 2 games in a row that they won, 4 in a row in which I thought they were the better team, and then they followed it up last night. A very, very good game, 1-0 in overtime, and that's you got to be a real fan of old school hockey to appreciate a game like that. Everything today is just goals. But when you see just a goaltending battle, Igor was phenomenal, really made a couple. I think the Rangers were the better team. The Rangers were definitely a better team. The Rangers poured it on in the second period, but just could not solve Carter Hart. And I got to give him credit where it's due. He was amazing in that game. He did all he could. His team just didn't help out. In fact, it reminded me of the Rangers in the first half of last year. where they were winning games in which they were grossly outplayed, and it was the Igor show. And of course, Igor rewarded for his troubles with the Vezina Trophy last year. But the Rangers deserved 2 points, and they ended up getting it. Chris Kreider breakaway with about a minute left. Finally solved Carter Hart, beat him nice and clean. So the Rangers have now won 3 in a row, and that's 5 in a row in which I think they played very well. And now it gets real fun. Tomorrow night, the surprising 9-1 Boston Bruins. I think we talked about that in our preseason, where we thought the Bruins were a low-level playoff team last year, didn't do anything to improve, and I think they actually, they got a little bit older, and I think. People saw them with the emergence of the Devils, possibly Columbus, although that remains to be seen. With the improvement of Ottawa, the improvement of Detroit, we thought that might knock Boston out of the playoff situation. However, they are 9-1 and NHL's best 9-1. So I'm gonna go into that game as well tomorrow night at the Garden. That is a nice original 6 Rangers Bruins matchup.
Oh, it's fun.
Which is nice because that's always tension's always run high in those games. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm very excited now that the Rangers have righted the ship. And they, this will probably be their biggest test of the year thus far, unless you want to count the Islanders. And we'll get the Islanders again next week, so a chance for retribution there. So yeah, things are going well in Ranger Sound right now. A whole different turnaround from a week ago. And so, how about your 5-5 Habs? What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, just to jump back on the Bruins, they just got back. Brad Marchand came back yesterday. They brought back David Krejci this year, who looks to be doing good after his hiatus back in the Czech Republic. So, Boston's looking like Boston. They're going to be a good team. They're going to be a tough out, every night. And I know their goaltender has been doing pretty good. He was a backup, for a few years behind. Anyways,
Tuukka.
Behind Tuukka. So he was ready to take that step this year, and he's looking pretty good. But as for the 5-5 Canadians, it was a tough loss last night against Minnesota. Second time we lose to Minnesota within a week. Another 3-1 loss. The Canadians, they were looking all right, but I think this is how a lot of games are going to go. We're going to look okay, we're going to battle, but in the end, we'll probably just come up a little bit short. The good news is that the power play seems to be going now. It's 2 straight games of power play goals. They scored 2 power play goals against St. Louis. That was a big win. We're down 3-1, came from behind and ended up winning in that game. I believe it was 6-4. Caulfield got a couple of goals, 3 points. Suzuki also 3 points. Slafkovsky scored our first real power play goal, because the last one we had scored was in overtime. So he's got 2 goals on the season now. He ripped a rocket top corner off a one-timer off that first power play. And then the second power play goal of that night, Nick Suzuki thread the needle somehow over to Cole Caulfield, and he scored his first one of the night, or second one of the night. And they look like they got kind of like a Brett Hull, Adam Oates connection going. Yes, obviously that's one of the best duos that the NHL has ever seen. But that's just how they find themselves. Caulfield's also been playing really well. Not just scoring goals, he's chipping in all areas of the ice. And he's finding those spots that he needs to get to, so the puck can find him. Once he has an open shot, chances are he's going to score. I think he has one of the highest shooting percentages in the league right now. He's clipping at about 23-24%, and he's getting at least 5 shots a game. So when he's shooting that much, he's going to score. He's going to score a lot of goals, and he's definitely taking a step forward this year. Nick Suzuki too. He's over a point a game. He's winning over 50% of his faceoffs. So he's really starting to look like a true number 1 center that we've been looking for since Vinny Damphousse back in the 90s. I love Saku Koivu, but he would have been a better second line center if we had somebody to play in front of him. But the St. Louis game, that was a big win. Good game, probably the best game I've seen the Canadiens play in over a year. And then, like I said, last night was a tough one. Ended up losing that 3-1. But again, we got another power play goal. That's 2 straight games of power play goal. So I know Nick Suzuki had a meeting with Marty St. Louis and Alex Burrows to specifically talk about the power play. You know, what things they think they could do to try and make it work a little bit better. And already it's paying fruits. You know, they're not just passing the puck around for 2 minutes before they take a shot. No, they're as soon as they have an open lane, they take the shot. You know, that's something Marty St. Louis was saying. If we want to score on the power play, we got to start shooting, because they just weren't shooting, and now they are, and it's starting to work. So again, but tough loss, not a big deal. You know, there was some good parts. Again, like I said, Nick Suzuki picked up another point. But you know, it was still a tough game, but this is the way it's going to go this year. You know, we'll end up losing more of those close games than we win, because I think our 5-5 right now is kind of an anomaly. You know, with the hype at the start of the new season, wanting to prove people wrong. But at the end of the day, they might not be bottom 5, but they'll definitely be a bottom 10. And, you know, there's very strong picks all the way through the draft, especially in the top 10 this year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, well, and like we talked about, this is an experimental year. You got a first-time head coach, first-time coaching ever in St. Louis, completely trying to reshape the culture, and you've got a team where, if you happen to sneak into a wild card somehow, it would completely, you know, it would be a major, major Cinderella story just making it. So
absolutely.
The expectations are, you know, as long as I know that, you know, your media is can be absolutely brutal. So is your media
2 languages, right? So you get shit on in my language, in English and in French, you know?
So is your media, I mean, I know that Montreal is kind of like New York in that it's a town that doesn't like to hear the term rebuild, doesn't want to hear that this is a throwaway year. So is your media, has they accepted that? Do they know what this is? Or is this, you know, or do they have the red blinders on and are just, well, it's we're playing hockey, so we expect success?
Most of them are like, yeah, this is a rebuild year. This is a year for learning. This is a year where you want to see the young guys progress. You want to see what Marty St. Louis can do as a coach. So most of the media accepted it. Some of them are still like, well, you know, we're not really a young team. If you take a look at the roster, we got a bunch of veterans up front. But, you know, like our 2 main guys, Caulfield and Suzuki. Suzuki is 23. Caulfield is 21. You know, Kirby Dach is only 21 years old. Jarosław Kaczmarski is 18 years old. And then we got our 4 rookie defensemen on back right now. But Joel Edmondson should be coming back soon. Michael Matheson is still probably out for a good month. So it's going to be interesting to see who goes down once they come back, because we just got Joel Armia back. And so Evgeny Dandanov and Mike Hoffman are both healthy scratches last night. You know, and Dandanov, I think something's brewing. You know, he missed a couple of practices. They said it was out for a therapy day. The media during a scrum, the media asked, you know, what's going on with Dandanov, is he hurt? And Marty St. Louis kind of didn't really lose it, but he's like, hey, well, our media relations person just told you what's happening. She already told you, so I'm not going to answer this question again. You guys already know the answer. Which kind of the first time, you know, I see him kind of, you know, get a bit ticked off. But it's different this year, right? Last year was pretty much all through Zoom. This year, you know, they're in his face with microphones.
Right.
So, you know, it's something new for him on the coaching side. You know, he experienced that when he was a player, but he had 2-3 guys in the room, dressing rooms, when he was playing in Tampa, if that, you know, maybe one guy. So,
Yeah.
you know, this many people in front of him is still something new for him. But, you know, so far, I think he's handling it well. He's still experimenting a lot with the lines, you know, like it's pretty much almost every night we got new people, like new lines going on, and they still have Slafkovsky on the 4th line, which I'm not a big fan of, but he's trying to get power play time. So that's
yeah,
good for him.
You know, and that's good that he's getting the power play time, because that's where he can really showcase his stick handling, his puck handling, and whatnot, and his playmaking ability with little to no pressure, figuratively and realistically speaking. But as far as the 4th line goes, yeah, we had that going on. When we drafted Kakko, and then we drafted Lafreniere, number 2 overall, number 1 overall. Both of them, it was starting to get frustrating because they both came in under David Quinn, who you're hard pressed to find a Ranger fan who actually did like him as a coach, even though he didn't have a playoff team to work with. I give him that, but he was given out ice time based on salary and experience rather than earning it. And Lafreniere, as we saw, has an incredible work ethic. He's balls out every shift. Kind of reminds me of like a Callahan or a Dubinsky, but just with triple the talent.
More skill.
And he wasn't getting his chance. And as we saw in the playoffs with that kid line, I know I bring it up in one aspect or another pretty much every week, but as we saw in that kid line in the playoffs, both him and Kakko proved that they're done being on the third line. But again, Kakko was in his third year last year, and Lafreniere was in his second year. Now they're in the seasoned veteran. Season, we'll call them veterans. Third and fourth year, respectively. We'll call them veterans now. And now they have both cracked the top six. Lafreniere actually got lucky. I don't know if we had brought this up, but Kravtsov just suffered his third injury of the season. Again, he's day-to-day pretty much every one of these injuries. But I mean, like, go to the gym, take some roids, do something. But with his injury in the first game, allowed Lafreniere, a natural left winger, to be put on the second line at right wing, basically because we have zero depth at right wing, and Gerard Gallant had no choice, and it absolutely clicked. He's playing right wing there like he's playing in his whole career, playing with Panarin and Trocheck. You put you or me on that line, we're gonna get some points.
He probably needs one of those Roger Clement vitamin B injections. Huh?
Exactly. And so both of them, and Kakko's been fantastic on the first line as well. Kakko does a lot. He's not getting a lot of points, but he's getting a lot. He's turned into a phenomenal stick handler. And not quite as great as finding that home run pass as Panarin, because what Panarin will do is he'll just skate around, he'll dipsy doodle, he'll cycle, and then all of a sudden, boom, he just finds somebody through two defensemen, one leg, one stick, and it's a bang bang play. Kakko not quite there yet, but what he's doing is he's making the
player
play.
though.
Yeah. I mean, to compare someone to Artemi Panarin, not everybody can be compared to that, but he's really showing, and he's making things happen, generating offense that leads to goals, or at least leads to scoring opportunities. Doesn't always show up in the box score. Maybe, two other, he found a great pass, and then there were two other passes before the goal, so he's not going to get assist. But in watching the play, that Kakko had a lot. So that's starting to happen for him on the first line, playing with Kreider and Zibanejad. He's really starting to show that he deserves to be on the top six, as Lafreniere. And while Kakko, the points will come if he keeps playing the way that he's playing. The points will come. For now, he's very instrumental in generating.
If you keep creating chances for yourself and for your teammates, obviously the points will come. If you keep playing the right way, put yourself in good spots, eventually it's going to come. It's just, again, he's still a young guy, right?
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. He's only 21. It's just that he's been here, 4 years already. And that's why, we're as Ranger fans, we want to manage our expectations because, he's been under a lot of criticism because for a number 2 pick, we thought, he'd be putting up Taylor Hall or whatever numbers when he was that age, or Stamkos. We thought he'd be in the 60, 70 point range by now. But again, just because it's his 4th year, but he's also 21. The Rangers don't start 18-year-olds very often, and now you've got 2 of them back to back, and him and Lafreniere. And we've had a lot of players that turned into busts because of that. It's hard to hypothetically say what the reason is that they were busts. Maybe they just weren't as great as their younger, youth hockey and whatnot, junior hockey play and stats would indicate. Maybe it just didn't translate to the pros, but for whatever reason, the Rangers have had a lot of highly ranked prospects that just didn't pan out, and they had a history of bringing these guys in at 18, 19, 20, and they weren't ready. And that's why we talked in the past about Brennan Ottman, who is now 19. And, like I said, we just have 2 guys. And I think Hedl, was only 19 when he started, full time with the Rangers. So that whole kid line all got their start as teenagers. So, we got Gibby with Brandon Ottman, who was just absolutely tearing it up in the OHL. And we know that, this kid should, be a stud. And we're wondering, okay, he's 19. Why are we not bringing him up? But obviously, and he played in, I think, 2 preseason games before he got cut. He was easily the most noticeable guy out there, making it happen. A couple of assists in his first game. Really wanted to make the team and then didn't. And my first impression of that was, well, what is going on here? How did we sign like Jimmy Vesey, but we don't have a room for this phenom? And then I was reading the articles and the analysis, and there were parts of his game that they still wanted to develop as to why they didn't bring him up. And they brought up some of the names that did turn into busts. Lias Anderson was our latest. He was drafted. Him and Hedel were like the 1-2 punch. They were both drafted, I believe, in the same draft. Both highly ranked centers. Philip Hedel has evolved and turned into a big future of this team. Lias Anderson was just an absolute complete bust. There are plenty more of highly ranked first and second round Rangers picks that completely busted. And I don't have any more names offhand, but I remember reading this article and they were bringing up these names, and I think that that's part of. They're very cautious now about the development of Ottman as to why they didn't bring him up, and they're going to send him to the OHL for 1 more year because they don't want to rush these things and have these guys burning themselves out, and it can ruin a player's career if he's just thrown to the wolves as a teenager. There's a very small percentage of players that will turn into what you expect them to turn into, what they're supposed to turn into when they're thrown into the league at that young.
Yeah, take a look at Jack Hughes, right? It took him, he just started being the guy they thought it was going to be last year, right?
And he also had some injuries to deal with. Jack Hughes is turning into, a bona fide superstar. Devils in first place. I'm not happy. It's been a nice, enjoyable as a Ranger fan. It's been a lovely 9 years of their misery. But you knew with what they were building, with how they were drafting, you knew that was coming to an end. And it appears like it's coming to an end. They upgraded their goaltending significantly. I believe that their penalty kill is in the top 3. They have the number 1 best shots against. 22 shots against is what teams are putting on them through their first 10 games.
And it's more fun when your rivals are good. Right? It's more fun when they're both good.
Yeah, it is. It makes for a better atmosphere. Case in point, I'm going to the Rangers Bruins tomorrow night, and then I'm going to Rangers Islanders on the 8th. It's more fun for the atmosphere when both are good, but it's also nice when you have a team that you just absolutely hate. I mean, if you were going to Habs Boston or Habs Toronto, how great would it be? Because both of those teams are going to bring fans into your building.
Of course,
how great would it be if just one of them, or either of them or both of them happen to be a last place team, and you can let the gas talking begin with the fans, and then you just throw a touchdown on them, and end that game 6-1 against a terrible team. Yeah, that is fun too. But yes, as a neutral observer, as an objective hockey fan, yeah, when you have a big time rivalry, Rangers Devils, Rangers Islanders, Habs Bruins, Habs Leafs. Yeah, it's good for the game and good for the the adrenaline level when both teams are comparable level, if not both when both teams are contenders. It definitely helps the rivalry. Definitely. I mean, look what happened in Alberta. Those two teams have been in the same division forever. And we had our first Battle of Alberta in the playoffs since the 80s.
Yeah.
So and it just so happens that obviously they're going to play each other in the regular season, but it takes both teams being good to really, really spark that rivalry.
Well, speaking of rivals, Toronto, they have about the same record as that, but they're not doing good. They're not looking good. They look like they're playing to get their coach fired. Sheldon Keefe called out their stars twice already this year. they blew a 3-1 lead against Anaheim, who's probably the worst team in the league. And they ended up losing that in overtime. Sheldon Keefe just lost it. Austin Matthews has 2 goals. We got like 3-4 guys that have more goals than Austin Matthews. We have Caulfield sitting on 7, Suzuki sitting on 5. We got a couple of guys with the same amount of goals as him. Cole Caulfield has more goals than Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares combined.
Yeah,
right?
well, the thing about Toronto is we've been ripping on them for a few years because they are so top heavy.
They didn't address their biggest needs, which is defense and goaltending.
Right.
They
well,
just
defense, right,
patchwork,
and defense and goaltending. And I think that they, what's that old cliche go? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting
different results. Yeah.
Like, how have these teams not learned anything from the mid 2000s Washington Capitals? And I think I brought up Florida going into the playoffs as a comparison there. The Capitals in the mid 2000s when Ovechkin was, coming to power, they had the six divisions at the time, and the Southeast Division.
The first round.
They were winning that division every single year, scoring ridiculous amounts of goals, but they had no defense, no goaltending.
Yeah, one year they got hacked.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, come playoff time, they could not get past the second round. Yeah. They finally addressed that. Braden Holtby had, the first half of his career was very, very good. They addressed their goaltending. They addressed their defense. They ended up getting themselves a Stanley Cup.
Exactly.
So, I was comparing Florida to them last year, and that Florida was extremely top heavy. They were scoring 5, 6, 7 goals a game. But that doesn't happen in the playoffs. And sure enough, they were exposed by getting knocked out. And Toronto, every single year with these ridiculous contracts to Tavares and Marner and Nylander and Matthews, they're going to have to lose one of them. And I think we Nylander is probably the odd man out there, but they're going to have to get some of this off the books. I mean, it's just too much firepower. Yeah, in a salary cap league, and not enough defensive goaltending. And you think they would have learned their lesson last year, like enough's enough. But it's like they went into the offseason thinking like, well, it'll work this time. But now, at least they have the offense to get them through. They don't even have the offense. I mean, yeah, they still have the guys. They're still the same guys.
And they'll start scoring eventually, right?
Well, I'm looking at they've got 27 goals, which is actually the second worst in your division. You guys,
we have 28.
You guys have scored more. Yeah, Habs have 28. You guys are outscoring the Leafs. You both played 10 games, and you guys are outscoring the Leafs. So,
and we both have a differential of 0. We scored 28, gave up 28. They scored 27, gave up 27. So I believe. That's what it was last night, but maybe the stats have changed.
Yeah, now it's 28 and 31 for Montreal.
Right.
27 and 30. So that's fine. So you gave up one more goal than them, but that's fine because they're supposed to be a contender and you're not, but you're outscoring them. And the Leafs are just built on pure offense. That's a problem.
It helps when you have the second highest goal scorer in the league right now.
Yeah. But, if we know that they're not built to win a Stanley Cup as is, but with the firepower that they have and how top heavy they are, that should be enough to get them to the playoffs. But right now, we're 10 games into the season and they're sitting in second to last place. In fact, Ottawa's got a game in hand on them. If Ottawa wins that game, that would be 5-0. Yeah, if Ottawa wins their game in hand, that puts Toronto squarely in the cellar. I mean, again, I know it's early. It's only 10 games. 10 games in, but Toronto, with the firepower they have, with the regular season, built for the regular season that they are, they're not even doing that. They should be 7-3. Divvy up however you want in the overtime column, but they should be give or take 7-3 or 6-4 at the absolute worst.
It's gonna be interesting to see though what happens if they fail to get out of the first round again, because everybody's gonna be gone. The coach is gonna get fired. I wouldn't be surprised. If they keep losing, if he gets fired before the end of the year, and then their GM, he's on thin ice. He was handed superstars in a silver platter and could not give them anything to get it done. They still had they're spinning in circles. They're probably going to turn around, be a good team regular season, but it's the playoffs that's where it counts. Right. Anyways, we got about 9 minutes left, so how about we talk about what's coming up for us?
Okay. Well, like I said,
sorry to cut you off there, but we got a clock.
Yeah, understood. Okay. Well, like I said, for the Rangers, it does not get any easier. In fact, They did squander some opportunity for points, like I said, with San Jose and Columbus. But like I said, hopefully they're hopefully righting the ship. The next couple games, we got Boston coming to town tomorrow night, followed by Detroit on Sunday, followed by the Islanders again on Tuesday. Then we hit the road, Detroit, Nashville, Arizona back home, and then we're going to dive right into the West Coast at Seattle, San Jose, LA, and Anaheim. So there really is no easy part of the season for any team.
Nobody. Unless you're playing teams that are in full tank mode, like Columbus is looking like they're in full tank mode. Anaheim, Chicago, even Arizona is looking better than probably they want to be.
Like I said, with the Rangers the other night in Arizona, and again, I don't, it's second night of a back-to-back on the road, that immediately levels the playing field as far as whether that team the Rangers are playing on paper significantly worse. Back-to-back on the road immediately levels the playing field, and you just have to win that game. But that being said, Arizona, took the Rangers to the limit, and the Rangers got out of there with a 3-2 win. Arizona did not look terrible. I don't see them being a playoff team, but they did not appear like they were in tank mode. They did not go down without a fight in that game.
No, absolutely not. As for the Habs, we're finishing up our 4-game road trip tomorrow night against Winnipeg. Winnipeg has been looking pretty good. Connor Hellebuyck is having a bounce back season. Is looking like one of the best goalies in the league again. Then we come back home against Vegas. Then we go back on the road against Detroit and come back home against Vancouver. So we got a back-to-back next week. Vegas, Vancouver, they're going to be tough games. Detroit's an improved team. So, I think 3 points would be enough. The next 4 games, 2-3 points. I don't expect really us to get much more than that. I think we'll probably end up losing to Winnipeg tomorrow night. It's weird travel. I guess Minnesota and Winnipeg are like one right in the other, but still, they're still a young team. They're still getting used to these kinds of road trips. It's good for team bonding and all that stuff. But I don't know. I don't think. I think we're gonna start to see what the Habs, what people thought they were going to be sooner rather than later. So I think that's what's going to come. But one dilemma we have, though, is that once Joel Edmondson comes back, we'll have too many roster players. So we're going to have to put somebody on waivers. So the question is here, who's going to go on waivers? It's going to be, it's not going to be one of the rookies. They can be sent down, no problem. But, it's probably going to be Evgeny Dandonov, Jonathan Drouin, or Mike Hoffman that would be the odd man out, and you could put Dandonov on waivers, but we were hoping to be able to trade him for something. But at the end of the day, we traded Shea Weber for him. So you got to, for giving up, get a team to take that contract, you have to take something they didn't want in return. But I think something's brewing with him. I don't see him being here much longer. But if he's not playing, then who's gonna want him? Nobody's gonna want Mike Hoffman. Nobody's gonna want Dandonov. Nobody's gonna want Drouin. So I think they're here until they're not. Unfortunately.
Yeah. The way in a salary cap league, unfortunately, that's just the way it goes for some players. Unfortunately, I'm looking at your schedule. You guys have a weird schedule.
It's a weird month.
You're on just the next 2 months, because you're on a 4-game road trip now in which you're 2-1. So at worst, you split that 4-game road trip at worst. Followed by in November 23rd, you've got 2 on the road, a home game, and then you do Western Canada and Seattle. So
and then we got Western United States. So we got 2 Western road trips.
Yeah,
like one after the other.
4 in a row, 6 out of 7 on the road, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by a 7-game road trip.
Out west, that's always the killer. That's always the killer.
7. We don't have a 7-game road trip. No, so the good news is if you guys can, and then of course in February, then you got a 4-game road trip: Carolina, Toronto, New Jersey, and Philly, and then followed by another 4 with California.
Yeah, and then
Wow,
the California road trip, the Death Valley, as they like to call it. That's always a tough one.
wow. I mean, I know it's obviously going to, turn out to 41 games home, 41 games on the road. But looking at this schedule, it just looks like you have like 10
We're
more
always
road
on the
games.
road during Christmas time. We always have a lot of road games during Christmas time because the Bell Center is always booked for like Disney on Ice, stuff like that. So
4 road games, 1 home game, 4 more road game. Wow, you have a not favorite. I've never seen anything
things
like
will
this.
turn around. Things will turn around. And we'll be back in the Connor Bedard sweepstakes after that. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, you might very well be just the road games with the, like you said, with the lack of experience and whatnot. Road game after road game after road game. These guys just aren't used to that kind of thing.
Exactly.
This level. So yeah, they might.
And they're long trips, right? Like they're going out west, Arizona, Dallas, then they're coming back east to go in Florida and
Yep, Florida, Washington, Nashville.
I don't know who makes these schedules, but they should make it for like every team has to go through this, but I feel like they could make these schedules a bit easier with the travel.
Well, like I said, we don't have any 7-game road trips. I don't think we have anything above a 5-game road trip.
We always have a 5, 6, 7-game road trip at Christmas time because the Bell Center just isn't available.
Yeah, but you've got 3 of them.
Yeah.
So while I know we only got a couple minutes left, but while we're on the topic of schedules, did you notice this year that you only play? I don't know if it's all the division teams, but most of the division teams you only play 3 times, not 4.
Really? That's interesting.
We play.
Maybe
they
try to
pointed
balance
that out
a little bit more for us to play teams we haven't played too much in the last couple of years. Because
well, the problem is you got Seattle now, and that adds 2 games, and Vegas was added 4 years ago, and that adds 2 more games. And yeah, we only play the Flyers 3 times. I think we only play the Islanders 3 times, and the Devils. So I don't know if it's every division team or just most of them, but that's not acceptable. I mean, I'm okay. Like, I like playing the other conference 1-1. I like playing them both times, home and home.
You have to.
Yeah, because there was a time when they made it only 1. I believe in the first few years after the lockout, because I remember we played the Devils.
We played Boston 8 times.
Yeah.
That first year, we beat them all 8 times. That's the reason we made the playoffs.
Right, and that's when they were trying to build up the the in-season rivalries.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna, so now you got 2 new teams in the mix. I don't like this at all. I think what you should do is you should drop the 3 games against the other division in your conference. For example, we're playing the Habs and every team in the Atlantic 3 times. Then you got to make that 2 and then add the 4th game in the division. When you got your rivalries.
We got like 20 seconds left, so I don't. Sorry to cut you off again, but we've got 20 seconds left. So I guess we'll be signing off for tonight, and we'll see you guys all next week. And as usual, keep your head up and your stick on the ice.
Always.
And we'll see you next week on another episode of the Face Off Hockey Podcast.